Kyle here. Yes, I've got my blade turned backwards again. About once a month, I seem to find a need to turn my blade around for some reason or another, and today I'm going to show you what I'm up to. By the way, what's your feeling on wide versus narrower tires on a grader? I prefer the narrower ones. In fact, this machine came with wide tires, and I swapped them over to narrower ones. I guess if you need flotation, the wider ones are better, but I'm normally working in gravel anyway. Now here is a pile of wet clay that was stacked here by a hoe a couple of weeks ago, and I think the job site would look better if it was knocked down. You see, the pile is sitting right behind the curb line, and there is not quite enough room for me to back in behind it. But there is enough room for me to get my front wheels in there. I'm going to attach the camera to my hard hat and show you some footage from on board the grader as we do this. You see, if I was trying to back in behind this pile, there's all kinds of obstacles back there. There's string line, there's hubs, there's stakes. But if I can approach these obstacles with my front wheels, it's a completely different story. So that's the advantage of doing this little project with your blade turned backwards. The material in this pile is wet clay, and when I knock it down, it'll give it a chance to dry out a little. Later on, maybe we can use it to backfill the curb. This little project took about a half an hour. It just makes the job site look a little better when people drive through. Don't forget, if you're doing this, you gotta be aware of what's behind you. For me, there's just basically an open field behind me. You see, in this case, I am actually cutting material in reverse. But quite often, I turn my blade around and use it to backblade while driving forward. Now here you can see it's much easier to navigate these obstacles with my front wheels rather than my back wheels. As I whittle away on this pile, I'm going to tell you a story from the past. The first time I ever turned a blade around on a grader, I was operating a 16G, and that was about 40 years ago. I was working on a road job, and I was spreading a thin lift of gravel for several kilometers. Well, when I was trying to feather out this gravel in a nice thin lift, and nice and smooth, that old 16G began to bounce, and bounce, and bounce. Anybody that's ran a grader for very long knows exactly what I mean. That rhythmic bounce. I noticed that when I used my back blade with that 16, that rhythmic bounce didn't seem to happen. But I wasn't about to go in reverse for several kilometers. So I played around with the circle for a while and figured out a way to turn the blade backwards. And it worked. I could feather out that little windrow gravel in fourth gear wide open. So here I was, going about 12 kilometers an hour and staying completely smooth. I was sold on the idea, and I've used that method ever since, at least every now and again. I gotta tell you, when people see you using your blade backwards, they definitely take a second look. Sometimes it's a little amusing. If you try turning your blade around, just make sure you don't puncture a tire or rip your steps off. I wonder how many people watching this video have ever ripped a step off. I know I have. Okay, I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit in the video so I don't put you to sleep. So here's the finished project. The clay pile is gone, and all the obstacles remain. I managed to do it without running over anything. I'm going to jump ahead again and show you how I turn my blade back to normal mode. Here's an accidental shot of my backup camera. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is release the center pin on the circle. This one is activated by air pressure, and I believe most of the new ones are hydraulically actuated. Then I take my center shift pin all the way over to one side. This one I'm going to make it my right side. Then I put the pin back in on the right side and begin to turn my circle. Being careful I don't hook my step. Now it's a good idea to try to do this out of the way somewhere. Like, don't do it on a finished project because you might make a little gouge in the road or something. Now I just keep turning my circle. And now I'll start to slide my blade back the other way and back in again. Here we go, slide the blade. Get her back in. There. Now I take my pin back out. I shift my circle back to the center. Put my pin back in, and there you go. It sure feels good to be normal again. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see you next time.